Hello everybody, hope you're doing really well. Today I'm situated in Ashford and we're going to do the Mark IV tank which is here, which is quite iconic really in Ashford's history, and there's a really interesting story behind it, so stay with me, let's go do it. Come on. Before we start, I'd like to share with you a personal story about this tank and me. In my former life as a musician, if I ever had the chance to gig in Ashford, which was only a few times in my career, I would always make a trip to locate this tank in the centre of Ashford, and it was this particular monument that would always remind me just how much I loved history, so much so that it would run parallel with my love of music. Even when recording this video, as I was walking up to the tank, the same overwhelming feeling came over me, staring face to face with this incredible relic of wartime history. World War I was a truly horrible and brutal war, and even for me to know that my family and relatives fought in this great war still reminds me how cruel and savage the world can be. The tank that stands in Ashford Centre is a Mark IV female tank, a term used during the war for tanks that had multiple Lewis machine guns, as opposed to a mix of cannons and guns like the original Mark I tank. As it was produced towards the end of the conflict in 1917, it didn't see active service in many of the most brutal slaughter fields of Europe. The Mark IV would have typically been manned by a crew of 8 soldiers, with temperatures often exceeding 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and carbon monoxide poisoning from the gas fumes, all not helped by its cramped conditions and slow moving pace. It was an easy target for artillery. The reality was, if the tank was hit, the likelihood of survival was slim at best. However, seeing this slow creeping beast move towards the German trenches would have had a huge psychological effect, with reports of German soldiers frozen with fear on first encountering them. So as to how this tank arrived in the town of Ashford, well, after the war, 265 Mark IVs were gifted to the towns that raised the most amount of money via purchases for the National War Savings Appeal, with some of the training tanks being used to tour the country to raise the money. Other Kent towns such as Maidstone, Folkestone and Canterbury would receive the same, but in their case they were reclaimed for scrap during World War II. The Mark IV arrived in Ashford on the 1st of August 1919 by Captain Walter Farrar. Its number 245 was delivered by rail and met by the Tank Corps group, who drove it all the way to St George Square, where it proudly still stands today, and was deactivated in 1929 with the removal of the rear drive. Given Grade 2 listed status, she is now the only tank left surviving on public display in the country. I'll end by saying this: if we forget the past, how can we create a better future? It's why I made this channel, in my belief that documenting places like this, history matters.